What's going on, everybody? It is TC here, back with another episode of TC Talks, and the best news for you, worst news for me situation just happened. My microphone that I started to plug in for these episodes, including my Wilfred Woes episodes here on the channel, stopped working all of a sudden. Not in terms of the mic itself, but the connection with my phone and the microphone no longer works for some reason. I've been having all sorts of problems with this phone, so I'm going to try to trade it in. But for the time being, well, actually maybe not, because I already tried doing the insurance policy thing and it's not working. So it's like, I guess I'm going to just get rid of the insurance plan then, because if I can't even file a claim, what am I supposed to do with that? So either way, we'll see what happens. But regardless of what happens, you guys are going to be getting different videos instead of TC hanging out in his car, giving you these unedited / roughly edited videos, because sometimes there are some minor edits that I do throw in there. But over and above all, it's just a rough cut thing that I send out to you guys. Mostly do my research beforehand, have a decent script now most of the time, so we talk about things more concise, just give you the facts. Don't really like to embellish that much, so it's not like it's a ridiculous script. I just have to make sure that this is not the Wilfred speech, notes there, so you don't start hearing about Kristen and Jenna and all of our pals over there on Wilfred. But either way, let's finally dive in the episode. Subscribe. We're trying to get to 50 subscribers. We're doing a giveaway at 50, so make sure you stick around. The White Sox and the Yankees played yesterday, and honestly, it was typical White Sox fashion out there. Michael Kopech had probably the most interesting game he's ever going to pitch. Hopefully he'll ever pitch for the Chicago White Sox. And what do I mean by that? The guy went 6 innings, had a pretty decent outing. Overall, kind of looked shaky, especially in the second inning, completely fell apart, walking in 2 runs, giving up 3 unearned runs overall in that inning. Well, one of them might have been earned because it was a hit, but I don't know. Do you get an earned run if you walk in if you get walked in? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments section below if you know. But yeah, Michael Kopech, 2 runs off of walks, 1 run off of a pass ball. But then after that, the man settles in. The man gets nice and comfortable. He's not making those same mistakes. Doesn't give up another hit the rest of the time that he's on the mound. So overall, not a great game, but at the same time, if you look at everything he did, not a bad one. Where the Sox really went wrong is with his supporting cast. Now, 3 runs given up, total of 5 runs in this loss, 5-1 loss for the Sox. It's not a good number to give up. It's a decent amount of runs to overcome, but at the same time, not giving him any support. In fact, causing one of those runs to go in on your own accord with that pass ball behind the plate by McGuire. That's the situation you just can't have. If your pitcher's out there struggling on the mound, you got to be able to pick him up. You got to be able to help him get out of those situations. The White Sox constantly flounder those situations. We saw that earlier in the year with not Kopech, but what's his name? Keuchel. Keuchel had a few rough games, took it out on the White Sox players subtly, not too terribly, but still kind of released that onto his players, despite him not throwing the best games. But now that we're seeing this from Michael Kopech, who, yeah, he had a kind of a rough outing, but it wasn't an 11-run upset. It wasn't 7 runs. It was 3 runs. And at the time before that mistake, only 2. Now, 2 runs with a few outs, not a bad situation. But then a pass ball, now 3 runs is that's another step that you don't want to take, It's a pretty decent margin to score, especially in 1 inning, especially against these Yankees who have been absolutely lighting up Chicago pitching. Aside from game 3, they scored multiple runs, over 5 runs in the other two contests, scored 5 or more runs 3 out of the 4 times in this series. So White Sox maybe got down on themselves after that inning and just couldn't respond. They were expecting, another 9-2 loss, 9-5 loss, where it's like, despite how well we play here behind the plate, because those other games, Chicago was definitely driving the ball. It was 7-7, and the Sox blew that tie earlier in the season due to pitching. But at the same time, the Sox didn't pick up their pitcher this game, went most of the game without a run until Adam Engel, of all places, of all people, hits a home run and gets that run on the board for the Sox, the one measly run they would score. Abreu goes 0 for 4 again, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like, it's unfortunate to see that Adam Engel, somebody who, maybe this is just me, I don't expect a lot from that guy. Like, kind of like Adam Pollock out there. It's not that he's bad. It's not that he's terrible or anything. It's just like, I'm not expecting this guy to do anything. Like, he's there to kind of more be on the defensive, kind of like Harrison. He's not really there for his offensive capabilities. But Adam Engel, coming through with a 1 run, and all the other White Sox kind of looking like fools. My man Adam Vaughn, 0 for 4, just looked terrible that game. Overall, it's just abysmal performances. If it's not one thing, it's the other from the White Sox. And the reason why I really want to talk about this a little bit more in depth is just because it's the same thing we've been talking about all season so far. These White Sox are looking for that ring, that World Series title this season. They built this team up. They brought in Joe Kelly, some relief pitchers who have been horrible, by the way, who have blown 7 saves, who have given up a large margin of runs in their relief, just not looking good overall. It doesn't look like they tried to revamp it, along with the starting pitching rotation that hasn't been able to get it done. Not doing terrible, but still, nonetheless, not where we expected them to be as Chicago fans out here. So it's really disheartening. And more specifically, I want to go just into some hard numbers, because you guys hear me talk all the time about how bad the White Sox are, how bad this is, how bad whatever. And I just want to, at this point, now that there's a little bit more going on in the season, we're a little bit more established. We're well a month in already. So let's talk about it. How do the Chicago White Sox stack up against other teams? So I went to the league averages, and right now the White Sox, their best statistic is 19th in home runs. Okay? They are 24th in batting average, 26th in OPS, 26th in RBIs, 25th in hits, 29th in strikeouts. So that's a good thing. It's like the only thing that they did right is they don't strike out a lot. I mean, some of them strike out a lot, but as a team, they definitely don't. On base percentage is 28th. Slugging is 24th. So, not a lot of bats, not a lot of runs, not a lot of hits overall for the Chicago White Sox. And that's the thing, when you look at this team, the starting hitter, Tim Anderson, having a good season. Got to give him that credit. He's the only one hitting above 300. One of 2 White Sox in that past game against the Yankees that are hitting above 250. Everybody else, or 7 guys out of those 10 guys, were hitting below 200. There's only one other guy, I forget who it is exactly. He's hitting 221, I believe. Everybody else was hitting like 192, 176, 154. Those kinds of numbers. Those are not good numbers. And, recognize that baseball is a game of failure in terms of hitting. Most guys get on base 30-40% of the time. Most people get a hit 20 to 30% of the time. So it's not like it's anything ecstatic. It's not something that happens every single time they're up to bat. We recognize that, right? But at the same time, like Jose Abreu, looking at strikes that are clearly strikes, swinging at pitches well above his head, kind of reminds me of Patrick Wisdom, but we'll get a little bit more into him later on when we talk about how the Cubs have been doing. It's going to be another episode, but it's going to be coming right out after this, so stick around. But the White Sox, not doing great hitting-wise, and I know what you're going to say. Well, the pitching isn't always there, and you're right. We just talked about how that bullpen has blown leads, how that bullpen has blown saves, all those situations. But overall, for Chicago pitching, they're 6th in strikeouts, they're 3rd in saves and walks, they're 9th in runs, they're 16th in earned runs, they're 18th in hits, 19th in ERA, and they start to fall off about there because they're 23rd in home runs as well. And overall, they're not walking a lot of guys. They're not going out and giving up a shit ton of home runs. Oh my gosh, I just said that. Got to make sure this one's labeled not for kids. So sorry, guys. You did not hear that, no. Cover your good Christian ears. But the Sox are not doing anything terribly wrong in pitching. Those home runs could obviously come down a little bit, especially giving up another 2-run bomb in the 8th over there for the White Sox. Not something you want to be seeing. But overall, Sox pitching isn't terrible. They're getting the job done. They're able to, for the most part, keep the Sox in games. And it's the White Sox hitting that is constantly getting 1, 2, maybe 3 runs and scratching off a win. I mean, I'm pretty sure they won 3-2 the other day, if I'm not mistaken. But having such little run production, especially with the bats, Tim Anderson, Andrew Vaughn, Luis Robert, Jose Abreu, Yasmani Grandal, all those guys, Sheets, big hitters, guys that, when we look at them and the way that they can produce, I mean, that's why we're so mad here in Chicago at these White Sox, because these White Sox have all this talent, all this hitting ability, all this potential, and every time it seems like the potential never pays off in Chicago. These guys leave because of salary issues, because of them wanting to win a ring, whatever it is. These guys are obviously going to be potential Hall of Fame talent, some of them. So for a lot of guys, and I'm not just talking about these current guys, I'm talking the history of Chicago White Sox baseball. They leave Chicago, and then that potential, gets recognized elsewhere, develops elsewhere, and becomes who they are as players. And it's just annoying to see. You want to see the guys that we know are talented, the guys that we know can win here in Chicago. And it seems like way too often than not, those guys aren't winning here in Chicago. They go on to do better things, maybe at the north side and they win that part of Chicago, but other times it's going to the other Sox or another AL team that's able to utilize them in a way that Chicago just never seemed to understand. And that's the pain of it. And that's exactly what I'm getting at with this season is there's so much talent, there's so much potential. Dylan Cease, Michael Kopech, Lucas Giolito, and then you have Lance Lynn, in my opinion, the number 4 guy in the rotation. I mean, I would say Cease, Giolito, Kopech, Lynn is kind of my 1, 2, 3, 4 for the Sox pitching rotation. But, I mean, that's a decent-ass rotation. That's a good rotation right there. You couldn't ask for a better lineup, rotation of pitchers right there, because they, honestly, if you look at who they've been over their careers, if you look at how they should be producing, they are all great starting pitchers. 2 or 3, the second or third guy in rotation in most pitching rotations, maybe the number 1 guy in some rotations, especially our number Cease. Cease is dealing right now. Kopech is dealing right now. Giolito had a decent return. We'll hope he keeps that up. Lance Lynn, pretty decent pitcher overall. A lot of guys said, he's a great number 1 pitcher for Chicago. So honestly, all these guys have so much to deal and have proven that they have such good stuff. It's just a shame that when they give up 3, 4 runs, you could start to count the White Sox out because that run production isn't going to be there. It's honestly a tragedy to have a guy be able to pitch as well as some of these guys do, and the Sox be able to have a bullpen that blows that lead and a hitting lineup that isn't able to help produce runs to back up their pitchers. It's terrible. And then mix that with the fielding that they have at times, like that pass ball, like Tim Anderson's back-to-back errors, like that 3-error game they had day 1 against the Yankees. What are we doing here? The Sox need to do better. The fans deserve better. Even if we're not winning, even if we lose, especially like how we lost to the Yankees in the first and second game, that's acceptable. Okay, go out and lose, scoring 7 runs and give up 10. Okay, because then at least it's interesting. At least then our lineup that is so stacked and should be producing at a 7-run level is doing that. But these guys barely scratch out 2 runs, 3 runs on a daily basis. It is so annoying to watch, and we as Chicago baseball fans deserve better. And honestly, as the defending AL Central champs, they deserve better themselves, and they know it. And it just seems like there's no fire for that, and the South Side, But I'll leave it there. Let me know if you guys disagree. Let me know if you guys think that I'm blowing this way out of proportion, that the Sox are just in a lull right now. They'll get it back coming up. Or do you agree with me? Do you think that the Sox have already burnt out, that their season's over? It doesn't seem like there's any, caution or any need to, pick things up and kind of produce more. It seems like they're kind of, not comfortable with where they're at, but there's no urgency behind what they need to correct. But until next time, guys, be one of those 50 subscribers. Become a part of that giveaway. I'll see you next time.